So there's a lot of information out there that resistance bands don't gain muscle, or at least aren't as effective as free weights. In this video, I'm going to break it down and review the resistance band as a certified personal trainer and let you know if that's accurate. Let's get into it. First and foremost, I think that they're pretty versatile. So I'm going to give pros and cons as I go. They're pretty versatile because they come in different forms. Let's say right here, the TheraBand. This one can be used for many different exercises. The TheraBand is just a long string of balloon-like material that varies in its own resistance. Resistance itself is cool with these because you can fold them over multiple times and you can increase their intensity. There's also tubing, which is pretty cool because it can be used for other exercises. It can be attached to things as well as handles and also hooks and anchored to a wall, which is very good for at-home gyms. So I give that a thumbs up. And then they also come in looped forms and even nylon elastic combo, which is pretty cool. So what's the purpose of the looped forms? Well, you can put them around your legs and you can use them in things such as basically side steps with a plank, or you can use them standing exercises to add a little bit more resistance for side steps as well. So the versatility of them, I give it an A. Great for an at-home gym, so that's a bonus. As a personal trainer, one of the hardest things is to get people to stick to a program, and that's just in general. Whether you're a personal trainer trying to work with a client or it's you trying to commit to a goal, adherence is key to success. And research has shown that free weights and dumbbells and big bulky equipment isn't necessarily going to lead to the best adherence. But don't just take my word for it, let's go ahead and read a research article. In a systematic review article covering the comparison between conventional training versus elastic resistance band training on strength results, it was found that regarding weight machines and dumbbells, it is believed that on average, 50% of people who adopt this type of training give up during the first year of practice. These data are justified by factors related to financial cost, logistical difficulty, and lack of time, which makes its use unfeasible in certain scenarios. Therefore, when comparing free weights and dumbbells or bulkier equipment for an at-home gym or just in general, compared to elastic resistance bands, definitely the resistance bands are going to be much more convenient and therefore could have increased adherence. One other research article found that these increase adherence for adolescents. So it's not just adults or the general public, kids and adolescents like these resistance bands. Let me explain. In another research article, Lubins et al., this study demonstrated a lower dropout rate in exercises performed with elastic resistance bands, or ERT, in adolescents. The evidence presented suggests a possible favoritism for protocols consisting of ERT exercises. So once again, A+ for adherence. So now let's get to the part that everybody's waiting for. What about strength gains? How is it going to help me get stronger? Well, to answer this question, I need to divide the word strength into two parts because some people have a misconception that trying to grow the muscle in size is strength, which technically it's not. Growing your muscle size, aka what people try to do for bodybuilding or what some athletes need to do to bulk and gain size, is called hypertrophy, which is a different mechanism than trying to improve your strength of your muscle. They're two different training principles. Strength, on the other hand, doesn't necessarily involve increased bulk in muscle. Now, I say necessarily because if you're someone who's new to fitness, a beginner, or someone who has had a lot of time off, any type of improvement in your strength could improve or increase your muscle size in the process in the early stages. So now that we've clarified the difference between hypertrophy, which is bulking your muscle, and just strength gains in general, becoming stronger and improving your own functionality, let's get into explaining resistance bands' effectiveness for strength. Let's go back to that same systemic review article that I touched on in the beginning. Now, keep in mind, this was in 2019, which is relatively recent. This research study was comprising of a total of 224 individuals aged between 15 and 88 years old, which is a wide variety of ages. However, all studies were composed of subjects who had a systematic habit of performing strength training. So these people were pretty committed to working out, which is essential as part of this research article is trying to make sure that the people are adequate subjects to be testing. Now, this part is pretty cool. Regarding health, the sample varied from physically active individuals and athletes to individuals with coronary heart disease and moderate COPD. So we have a variety of health conditions for these individuals that we're testing the differences between conventional strength training, which is with weights and dumbbells, and elastic resistance bands. Now let's get to the juicy details. The results of this found that for the upper and lower limbs, respectively, there is no superiority between training performed with elastic resistance and training with weight machines and/or free weights on strength gain. So there you have it. The research alone shows that there's no difference or superiority in strength gains between resistance bands and free weights or conventional methods. However, let's get to the point at which there's confusion. So let's say right now we're going to try to do a bicep curl with a resistance band. And I'm holding it and I'm going to resist. And let's pretend like it's hooked to something off screen. Now, what's going to happen is my muscle right here is elongated. My bicep is elongated. And I'm going to start contracting. Right now, my bicep isn't doing anything holding this resistance band. But when I start to curl my bicep is working now a lot, and it's working harder and harder and harder and harder. And now I'm ready to stop. Then when I release my arm, it's working less. I'm working less. It's not as hard now. It's barely hard right now. And I'm not feeling anything at the point at which my muscle is elongated now. So did you catch that? It shortens and then it lengthens. Now I'm going to show you that same bicep curl example, but with a dumbbell or a free weight. With this free weight, my arm in the extended position, it's working right now. My bicep is working, but it's long. It's in its elongated state. And now when I curl my arm and that bicep is becoming shortened, it's still working. And now here, I'm about to go back to the elongated state and it's still working in its elongated state here. So it's working the entire time. Depending on which type of weight you use, whether it's a dumbbell, free weight, or a resistance band, you're getting some type of emphasis or lack of emphasis on the elongated state, depending on which one you're using. So the dumbbell gives you work in your muscles' elongated state. And when I say dumbbell, I'm also referring to free weights. The resistance band, I'm not really doing anything right here. Does this mean to not use resistance bands? No. But what it does mean is that for hypertrophy, in theory, your muscles might not get as big because they're not getting as much damage, because muscle growth needs muscle damage, as you would be getting if you are getting some type of emphasis on that elongated state. So you're not getting any resistance on your muscles in the elongated state in this case. So that's the theory that people have as to why they don't recommend it for people that are trying to just grow their muscle and not improve their strength. I hope that makes sense. Comment below if you have any confusion or if you have any questions about that. So just because people sometimes get confused by the term strength and they misinterpret strength for their muscles growing in size, I give resistance bands and all their forms an A for strength, or A+. But for hypertrophy, I give it a B because you will still get hypertrophy if you have done nothing and if you are new to exercise, as I said before. But if you are a really, really trained individual, if you don't have enough stimulus, no, you won't be growing your muscle in size if you're trying to only use resistance bands only. I say that because it's important to be training all three phases. Again, I have a video on why you should do that. Don't miss it. Last but definitely not least, how do I rate resistance bands for strength goals for people that are part of specific populations? Specifically, overweight individuals, the elderly, and people with underlying medical conditions. Well, let's see what the research says. All right, starting out, I have a systematic review article and meta-analysis for the effects on strength for overweight and/or obese individuals. This review included 15 studies and 18 different trials for the total of 669 total participants. Now, the results showed that resistance bands improved body fat in overweight or obese people better than other resistance training types. And specifically, the most important finding of this was that for overweight and obese people, resistance bands, resistance exercise can be taken for fat loss, and resistance exercise for own body weight for further muscle gain and maintenance of muscle mass so as to achieve the purpose of improving body composition. Now, one last note on this one. For muscle strength increase, although resistance exercise was shown to improve muscle strength, there was no significant difference between the three exercise forms compared: resistance band exercises, body weight exercises, and free weights. So once again, for overweight and obese individuals, A+ for resistance bands. All right, for my seniors out there, one really important thing is to make sure that you're preventing sarcopenia or trying to reverse the effects of sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle loss. There is another systematic review article that I have specifically for the effects of resistance bands exercise for frail older adults. Now, frailty is defined as decreased functionality and immobility related to decreased muscular mass related to sarcopenia as well. It's a common effect of aging. But in this, the key finding was that resistance band exercises have positive effects on improving frailty after 24 weeks and decrease depression symptoms at all analyzed time points, 12 weeks and 24 weeks for the depression. So for my older adults out there, not only does it improve strength, but it improves your mood even better. One more thing about resistance bands that is really interesting is if you stretch it far enough, you can actually reach the like button and hit it if this video is enjoyable and helping you at all. Thank you so much for doing that. For individuals with underlying health conditions, there is good news. Resistance band exercises are great for you. In another systematic review article, findings indicated that positive effects on muscular strength gain from the use of elastic resistance when compared with a control group in the elderly and individuals with osteoarthritis and fibromyalgia. So for these specific populations, it was found that the resistance band exercises did help as well. Also, there was a systematic review article. Elastic resistance training produces benefits similar to conventional resistance training in people with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Now, COPD is an incredibly common issue and disease that affects our population. And performing exercises with free weights can aggravate symptoms sometimes when done too intensively. However, the findings were that elastic resistance training improves muscle strength in people with COPD. The current review suggests elastic resistance as a potential alternative to conventional resistance training using weight machines, as they show similar effects on muscular strength, functional exercise capacity, and dyspnea. One other benefit, as stated earlier, that this specifically has for people with COPD is that resistance band exercises include the reduced risk of exacerbation-related hospitalizations. Now, to rate this category for special populations, for the elderly and for people such as the individuals with COPD, fibromyalgia, osteoarthritis, and other joint-related conditions, I actually would rate, compared to the free weights, the resistance bands higher. I would give the resistance bands an A+, and I would give free weights or dumbbells a little bit lower, maybe even a B, just because they can aggravate symptoms, whereas resistance bands have a tendency to not do that for those populations. For overweight or obese individuals, you can choose either one, but just remember what the research shows. So if you happen to be an athlete watching this or an exerciser that's looking to up your game, resistance bands can actually add to your concentric training or when your muscle is in its shortest form. You can add this as extra resistance to try to help drag you down while you're also using free weights, and you add and supplement to your training, or you can use resistance bands to pull you up to help you with your vertical jump. And there actually is a way that you can use resistance bands to help you with your tendon strength and your ligament health as well, but you kind of need to understand the three different components: eccentric, concentric, and isometric, because each one of them has different benefits if you train them separately and all together, and you kind of need to be training them all together. This video explains those three different training forms. You won't want to miss it because it can explain everything from the goals for power, the goals for landing mechanics, decreased injuries, and even tendon and ligament health and joint health. So check it out, don't miss it.